Michael, it's time for round two of the showdown between Dallas and Philadelphia. The first one was all the way back, week one, opening night of the NFL season this year. It was a pretty close game, 24-20, and it just seems like a distant memory now. It seems like everything in the NFL has changed in the last 10
Yeah.
weeks, and I don't even recognize that game anymore. And on top of
Right.
that, week one frequently for teams is not an amazing sample size of what to actually expect through a season. So thinking about that, getting into this game, let's talk about how we think it's going to go. So, like starting on like the offensive side of the ball, what has changed? What encourages you, and what do you think is a strength that you need to really lean on going into this game on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I think one of the big things is not putting ourselves in an early hole, which that'll make us one dimensional. We're very good. We are a very good passing offense. One could say statistically we're the best passing offense in the league, or second somewhere in there. Um, but I don't think we want to be one dimensional. We want to keep a running game going and have Javante running around out in the field. So we don't want to get so far behind where we feel like we have to. I think abandoning the run, no matter how far we get down, is a terrible idea. So I think that's probably the number one thing I want to see. The other thing that everyone's been kind of looking at, analyzing, figuring out is what is really the relationship between George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. Is there jealousy here? Is there any of that going on? Or is it like, no, these two guys really do feed off the success of the other and they just care about the impossibility factor of covering them both? How does that play out? And so far, I'm still tempted to believe what they say, which is that they feed off of each other. I still want to believe that. That's always my concern, is that what is there a point where one of those egos gets too big and starts getting concerned about their play time or their stats or whatever. But again, Dak moving the ball around, hitting Ferguson, hitting those two, finding Tolbert or Turpin or whoever is running around outside of them, Flournoy would be fine. And just keeping that ball spread around, make it hard for the Eagles defense to single out somebody. I think on the offensive side of the ball, that's what's going to happen. And going back to something you said when we were talking about the Cardinals game, the offensive line is going to play a huge role in that. We need the offensive line to create those opportunities. This is the healthiest our offensive line has been all year. We didn't even have our full offensive line the first time we played the Eagles. So now to speak on the offensive side of the ball, the other thing we did not have to face the first time, not further than, Dak Prescott was the only one who had to face Jalen Carter in that game. And that was only for a few seconds before he was thrown out. So, they will have a much bigger task this time around against a still extremely healthy Eagles defense that is playing amazing, amazing football. So that would be what I think our team needs to do on offense. But also the challenge is going to be very, very real. We were just discussing right before we went on air here that the defense is actually, if you just look at base stats like sacks, fumbles, interceptions, the numbers are they're almost identical, almost the same number of sacks between the two teams. The Eagles have just done a better job of the play-to-play keeping people off the board. So I think that's pretty good. I'll be very interested to see how our offense does against their very, very valuable defense.
Yeah, it will be interesting. And the return of Jalen, kind of the emergence of both Jalens, because they'll get back theoretically Jalen Carter for this game. They also added Jalen Phillips, of course, not too long before the deadline. So their pass rush could look a little better. But it's going to need to look a good bit better because they got one pressure and no sacks against you the last time. I think, or like one quarterback hit or something like that. Like it was just, It was not a factor. So that should help you. That should work to your favor. They are one of the many teams that runs more of a bend but don't break, so you can get some yardage, but getting into the end zone becomes a real struggle. So we'll see how you do there. You've kind of had, I felt like since after week one, an emergence of several good targets for the red zone in particular. Jake Ferguson has just become this very consistent move the sticks guy and red zone target. So, I mean, he's not going to break any records or anything, I don't think, but power to him if he does. But he is what I'm trying to say is you're very diverse there. And so you've got a lot of different targets you can do. The run game worked relatively well the first game for you. Keeping that going seems like the logical decision. Again, with the offensive line being very healthy, that should help. So, all right, let's switch to the other side. We kind of alluded to the defense a minute ago that your defense isn't as bad as it looks. And it has come a long way since the first 5 weeks when it just seemed like, oh, look at that. You gave up 40 points again. So since then, you have played much better. Obviously, the addition of Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson seems to have really helped. More the first name than the second one, but still both names. What do you think of the defense and like, is there something you want them to really focus on? Should they really just go all out on like, don't let Saquon Barkley beat us? Should it be, yeah, we're going to get pressure on Jalen Hurts no matter what, or what? What would you like kind of hone in on?
Yeah, our defense is one of the oddities in many ways of our defense is there's been a number of games this year since that first game. And it was notable in that first game that we weren't giving up tons of rushing yards against most running backs. We gave up plenty, and that's who really, if you recall in that first game, the guy who got us was not any of their wide receivers. It was not Saquon Barkley. It was just Jalen. So, have we made an adjustment on defense that will make his life more difficult? And, reinforcing the center with guys who know how to go get a quarterback with Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, Ezaraku, who can run people down. These are very, and Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney is not the guy, like he may not be the best sack guy in the world, but once a quarterback leaves a pocket, he is very good at pursuit. DeMarvion Overshown being back. I think we've got some guys, we have the personnel to do it. We just haven't had them together long enough for me to know for sure, like, okay, is everybody working together? Do they understand each other? I'm hoping that they continue to build off the success that they had against the Raiders. Especially one of the weaknesses that Philadelphia will have going into this game is Lane Johnson being out. Historically, that is a huge factor for their offense. Even in years where their offense was working really well, when he's out, they do not function. So we'll see. And maybe this is the game or the year that's an exception. But one would think that our front four in particular is going to be much more aggressive. I think the other thing we saw against the Raiders is we really rushed our front four a lot. We didn't use the same tactic that we had used, let's say, against Arizona, where we were hitting from everywhere. Mm-hmm. I'll be interested to see what we end up doing. And I would assume it will be a combination of the two, where we're pressing hard with the front four, but we're occasionally blitzing with other outside grouping of people. Overshown comes to mind here. And the other guy, though, Logan Wilson is not flashy, right? He is not like Superman in some way. But I do feel like we did see some impact from him, from a strategy on the field. Hey, everybody, you pay attention to this, you pay attention to that, you shift this up kind of approach in the last game. I want to see more of that going into this game from him, because I do feel like it's that on the field, in the middle of the play, kind of defensive quarterbacking, if you will, that we've been really missing. It feels very wooden, our defense has all season. So yeah, I'll be very interested to see how we do with that. Deron Bland feels like he's back. He looks healthy again. The game he played against Brock Bowers last week had some really impressive moments. Can he, finally get another interception? He only knows one thing to do with an interception, and that's run it all the way back. So it would be great to see him, find that opportunity during this game.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be big. If you can force Jalen Hurts into turning the ball over, he's only got one interception on the year. He has been exceptionally careful. As much as people think their passing offense has been a little bit lackluster this year, and it has been lower than expectations, it has been incredibly efficient in that way. It kind of reminds me of Justin Herbert from last year, where he didn't really have tons of production, but he only had like 2 interceptions through 17 games. It was quite impressive. So, yeah, if you can get some pressure on him, and some of your rather ball hawking kind of corners can really go to work, this will turn this game really quickly. And you could be, it was a close game in week 1. You turn them over a couple of times, we could be looking at not a close game at all. So that would be kind of things working optimally. That I guess that taken into account, how do you actually see this game unfolding? Do you think Dallas really has a good shot? I know you picked them in our picks, but like
Yeah.
dive into that a bit deeper. Like, what do you really
Yeah.
see happening here?
Well, it's one of those games where we're going to want to get on the board quickly, right? And I think this game does not mean the same thing to these two teams. Yeah, we're rivals. We're probably, I think at this point, we can even say healthily that we're bitter rivals. But the Eagles do not need to win this game. This is not that important a game to them compared to what it is for us. I mean, if Dallas loses this game, like, hey, that's been nice, everybody. We'll see you next year. For the Eagles, it's like, well, if we lose this game, well, no big deal. We'll see you guys in the playoffs or whatever, right? Like, they don't need this game. So I think there's that level of need on our side where I would expect and be incredibly frustrated if we're not, hey, we're going on it on this close fourth down. Like, it's very risk heavy, but we're doing that. I think that is going to play a role in itself, that we need to get on the board early. The Eagles are not a good come from behind team. They need to kind of be in the game. They need to be a one score out. They need to be kind of in those parts. They do not score fast and all of that. There's been a lot of conversation about AJ Brown and what's going on there. Devontae Smith is much more a danger as he was in the first game against us. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I expect is us trying to get on the board quickly, put them in a bad position early to where they really don't want to run. The other thing you would mention about pressure, we were having the conversation defensively about pressure is, there's two kinds of pressure there. Do we really want to push the pocket in on Jalen and let him run? Or do we want to really just solidify the pocket and make him throw? Because that team is not a good passing offense right now. And yeah, they might try to dump the ball out to Saquon Barkley and see what he does. But I'll be very interested to see how we play that because Jalen can definitely, as he did the first time, hurt us. And I would assume they will open him up to that during this game. But yeah, that's kind of what I expect is for us to try to get this into a shooting match as soon as possible. I think if we score 30 points and we're not just giving the ball up to their defense, I think that this should be a game that we win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. They have not proven themselves to be a consistently high-powered offense. So hanging with another high-powered offense seems like a low percentage shot for them. So we'll see if they can put them into that position. It should be one of the more fun games to watch. I know we'll get some matchups between two teams with 7 or 8 wins this coming week, but I think Dallas and Philly is going to be one of the better games. So we'll see if you've really turned a corner since the trade deadline, which some of the pieces are there for that to make sense. If you can stay healthy, that'll be huge, of course. We'll see once your offensive line. I know that's the big one that we talk about, maybe even too much, is your offensive line being healthy. But yeah, I mean, it's going to make a huge difference, I think. So I'm excited to see this one. So, all right, well, let's wrap it up then. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We've enjoyed talking about Dallas today, and it's been a nice change of pace because there for a while it seemed like both of our teams, we were just kind of like, here we go. This is going to be rough, and it's like it's looking a little better here. So I'm almost looking forward to talking about Dallas more than I enjoy talking about Arizona now. But that being said, again, thank you for joining us. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers. We'd really appreciate if anyone is watching and wants to join us again. Give us a like and a subscribe. Join us in the comments. Tell us what you think. If you're an Eagles fan, tell us how much you're going to stomp our guts. That's okay. We understand. And I hope you have a phenomenal week and an even better day.